Tips from Trestle is brought to you by eMenu Choice Point of Sale, Wiseox AI, and Benny Keith Foods. Welcome to Tips from Trestle, the Senior Living Food and Hospitality Podcast. This podcast explores the senior living industry with a unique focus on food, hospitality, and the community experience. I'm your host, Aaron Fish. My goal for this podcast: educate, inform, and inspire leaders in senior living. How? By bringing the resident and customer experience to the front of mind in our industry. We should bring the passionate spirit of food and hospitality to everything that we do and everyone we serve each and every day. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to it. On today's episode of Tips from Trestle, I am thrilled to introduce you to two incredible guests who bring unmatched expertise to the world of senior living and healthcare. First up is Lenny Raymond, a district sales manager for Benny Keith Foods. Lenny's leadership was truly forged in crisis. He guided operational teams through the chaos of Hurricane Katrina, making split-second decisions to ensure residents received the care and meals they needed, even under dire circumstances. He has spent many decades in food service, has overseen market expansions, and played a significant role in supporting culinary education across Louisiana. Joining him is Joyce Lamilla, Director of Healthcare and Nutrition Solutions at Benny Keith Foods. Joyce is a registered dietitian, a fellow of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and brings more than 25 years of specialized experience across healthcare settings. Her background in adaptive leadership and her deep commitment to nutrition make her an invaluable resource to providers everywhere. Together, Lenny and Joyce were able to offer real-world emergency know-how and the kind of practical, compassionate insights that only come from true experience. So let's drop in on our conversation recorded live in the Benny Keith studios. Lenny, Joyce, thanks for joining me today on Tips from Trestle.
Thanks for having
We
us.
love being here. Thank you for inviting us.
So I know today we're going to be talking about emergency preparedness, and you guys both come at this from different perspectives. Lenny, yours as an operator from distribution side of things. Joyce, you as the registered dietitian. But Lenny, I want to start with you. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your experience during Hurricane Katrina and how that kind of shaped your approach to crisis management.
Well, Hurricane Katrina affected Louisiana a number of years ago. At the time, I was president of an organization. We serviced about 800 nursing homes, 350 out of Shreveport and 400 out of New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
New Orleans shut down. So all of a sudden, our business in Shreveport more than doubled. And so in looking back at those times, I think what matters is culture. I think what matters is leadership. And I think what matters is pre-planning. And in the case of Benny Keith here, you need to have that experience. You need to have the resources. You need to have the knowledge. We came together, everybody evacuated to Shreveport, and you can't do this on your own. It is staffing that is going through trauma on their own. Many of the people had evacuated from their homes. They didn't know how their homes were. We had them in hotels and so on and so forth. So dealing with your staff and respecting them and keeping them motivated and informed is absolutely critical. And then not only talking about planning before time, but actually doing the plan. Joyce and her team has an incredible disaster plan for menus. It doesn't do you any good if there's a formula that tells you how much water to have on hand at all times if you don't have the water.
Right. Yeah. I love the fact that you talk about the staffing component, because I think a lot of times operators don't always think about that, especially when you look at the numbers you're planning for or the way you set things up. You're always worried and focused on taking care of the residents that are in your community, but not necessarily the staff that have to be there to support them. So it's a great point you make.
And every disaster is different. So trying to say that you're going to put this into a box and say, this is just how it's going to be, doesn't work. When we were in the midst of it, and, some of y'all old enough to remember Katrina hit New Orleans like a hammer. Many of the nursing homes evacuated to Texas, which is part of their emergency plan,
Right.
which really worked out well. It was nice and kind of calm. We were getting all that done. And then 10 days later, Hurricane Rita hit Southeast Texas. And all those nursing homes along, the ones from Louisiana came back along with the Texas ones that were going back. But the whole point is that everybody associated with this industry has one key component, and it is feeding those residents. And I know we here at Benny Keith, we view the residents with passion. I don't want to say they're our customer, I may simplify it, but we certainly have empathy for them. And we can't do it by ourselves. It takes a team, the actual nursing homes, it takes our operation, it takes everything else. And there's times operationally when you can't get there. If you have an ice storm, you can't drive a tractor trailer. So it's not a theoretical exercise to say, I need to get through my state inspections and I have an emergency plan. You better have that water and those emergency supplies on hand.
Yeah, definitely. Joyce, when you think about the plan that you and your team have put together to support your customers, when they look through the plan, what are some of the more common emergencies that they can expect to be dealing with, and how can those impact their operations on a daily basis?
I think when anybody who works in long-term care, when you're planning ahead, you have to not only think globally, okay, what can happen with the whole community being affected, but also what might happen to my particular community. So if the power went out just in your particular home, or the water went out in your home, or what if it's out in the whole state? So you really have to think way ahead. When we designed the plan, it wasn't that this is the plan and every person can use the same thing. We designed a plan for our customers to go through and then customize it to their community, because every community is different. So even though we have sample 3, 5, and 7 day menus with electricity, without electricity, sample order guides, and it might have the formula for how much water. You have to take that information and then customize it to your community. How many residents do we have? How many staff do we have? If your staff winds up having their family come with them to stay because they don't have a home anymore. If there are volunteers that are there, okay, you need to plan for all of those factors, because if you're cut off from the rest of the world, basically, what are you going to do with those people?
And I think that piece of customization is important, right? Because I can remember being in operations where some of our newer communities had generators and the kitchens were connected. Some of them had generators where the kitchens weren't connected. Some of them didn't have generators at all because of their age. And so knowing that any good plan starts as a plan, but then needs to be tweaked and moved and adjusted really does make sense. And so you mentioned a few things, but I'd love for you to add a little bit more color to some of the key components that, as the operators are looking to customize their plans, things that they should consider specifically as part of that plan.
Technology continues to drive changes in senior care, and that includes food service. eMenu Choice is an award-winning point-of-service application for managing the dining function in senior living communities. This mobile, touchscreen-enabled software enhances the dining experience for residents while streamlining processes for staff. The flexibility and functionality of eMenu Choice makes it an effective solution for any type of senior living environment, from independent and assisted living to skilled nursing facilities. It works for production kitchens or restaurant-style service with options for per meal or a la carte pricing, and accommodates a variety of payments, including bill to account, meal credits, and credit cards. Created by a senior care provider with more than a century of experience serving older adults, eMenu Choice eliminates communication barriers between staff and residents while enabling person-centered choices and greater resident satisfaction.
I think first is food. You have to think about, okay, we're going to do for our shelf stable food, what we are going to do for things that might be perishable that can only last a few days, using those things first. Thinking about supplies. I know a lot of times somebody's dish machine will go down and they start using all their emergency supplies for that. And then all of a sudden, there are no supplies in the supply closet. And what if a disaster happened to happen while you had no supplies in that closet? So really keeping up to date on your disposables, your food, both shelf stable and refrigerated, and then water. You cannot live without water.
Yeah. I think it's so important to talk about the water a little bit because, again, a lot of times you'll calculate that based on, oh, I've got 60 residents and I need 3 days or I want 4 days or whatever the number you want in your plan. But then all of a sudden you have to think, well, how many managers am I going to have? How many staff members do I need to take care of? Are those staff members here for all the meals? And so, understanding how your formulary works with staffing levels, census levels, a lot of times I even recommend to my clients and customers that they should be checking those numbers on a regular basis, not just once a year getting ready for a survey, but literally quarterly or maybe even monthly, just making sure that they're even rotating product out as well.
Exactly. Water does have a shelf life, believe it or not.
It does. So when you think about getting your staff prepared, what are some lessons that you can share from your experience in a large scale emergency like Katrina that can help the operators understand what the distributor is going through during those times?
Well, obviously, we're all part of the distribution channel. It is literally a worldwide distribution channel. So all of a sudden, your business increases. That means that you have to buy more product, you have to order more product, you have to stock it, and you have to receive it. So we had to change all of our receiving protocols to handle the volume. Then you have RSAs, which, are our drivers, who are absolutely incredible people. They're going to places that they're not used to going to. So that plays into it. You have to look at the weather and what's going on with that. Obviously, one of the things that we face in North Louisiana and most of the north of the country is ice storms.
Yeah.
And, snow you can go through, ice you can't.
Yeah.
So all those things play a role in what's going on. And unfortunately, it's not like you can say, well, this is going to happen in 2 weeks and this is how we're going to plan. It happens quickly. And those decisions are made by people, hopefully that have a whole lot of experience in it. And, I know with our last ice storm that we had here last year, the communication we had within our organization and from the leadership in transportation and operations at Benny Keith was impeccable. And you don't want to surprise customers.
Right.
If you can't get there, you got to tell them.
And I'm glad you mentioned the communication piece, because I think my experience, having lived through ice storms and snowstorms and hurricanes on the operator side, is that having a good communication as a part of the plan, not just between you and the distributor, but on your end as the operator, like, who do I need to be talking to the corporate office? Who is there one point of contact to talk to my distributor or Benny Keith or whoever it might be? It's so critical that communication is just as a big a part of your plan as the order guides or the right menus and those pieces. So I'm glad that you brought that up. And it's good to know that you guys make it such a priority on the distributor side that, hey, we need to make sure everybody up and down the chain knows this is the plan, this is where we're at, and this is what our customers' needs are.
And, the nice part about here is that we have Joyce and her staff of dietitians. I believe she has 15 or more and growing, but we have the ability to turn on a dime and change menus. And so we do that on a daily basis. And you get a source of supply. Let's say there's like in COVID, all of a sudden hits. Well, guess what? Chicken tenders no longer existed because they were all going to the fast food places. Right. Well, our nursing homes still needed them.
Right.
So what is it that we could use to replace with a source of supply that was available to us? So it's a channel.
Yeah.
It's not, we don't grow anything here. And we have to be able to deal with what we have on hand now. And Joyce and her team has done that incredibly well in my tenure here.
Yeah, and you mentioned COVID. I was sitting here as we were talking through this, thinking about the daily calls I had with the team at Benny Keith, who was my distributor at the time, about, hey, we're trying to plan menus, we're trying to make menu changes, we're on lockdown, and so what do you have? And being able to have that easy connection to one person who can then help us filter the information down and out to our teams was so important.
I love that this company is hands-on. We believe in relationship. We believe in the passion of servicing the customer. That customer is ultimately your grandmother or grandfather or a cousin who's sitting at that table eating. And that's the true passion that we bring to the table. And the other thing is that I love the experience of our leadership. Our company is not publicly traded. We have a lot of tolerance as far as investing in the future. And that does come into play from time to time. So you really need to know, is your distributor going to stand up when the time comes?
Yeah, absolutely. Joyce, I want to talk a little bit about what you see from a training and best practices perspective that maybe are in your plan, or things that you would recommend to operators that they make sure they do consistently to make sure that the emergency plan isn't just a, oh no, where is it when the moment happens kind of situation.
For over a century, Benny Keith has been a trusted leader in the food service industry. As a broadline distributor, we offer an extensive selection of products, delivering to 21 states through 10 distribution centers. We can help you create a thriving culinary culture by pairing quality products with customized solutions that elevate your residents' dining experience. Our team of registered dietitians provide unmatched customer service by modifying menus, selecting recipes, ensuring regulatory compliance, and more. Quality, value, and service are at the heart of everything we do. Benny Keith Foods puts the care back in healthcare.
Absolutely. Well, everybody knows that at least once a year, you're supposed to go through that experience of, okay, let's go through our emergency plan. You probably should do it more than once a year, but at least once a year.
Yeah.
Go through that plan, make sure that it is not just a piece of paper, that is everything up to date. Are people's phone numbers up to date? Are their addresses up to date? Sometimes you need that phone tree, and not just on a piece of paper tacked on a wall somewhere. It needs to be in everyone's phone, so it's accessible. It needs to be on the cloud somewhere, that if cell service is down in your area, somebody can get to it somewhere else. And these are all things you have to plan ahead for. There could be a cyber attack, and there are just so many emergencies that could possibly happen. You have to think through every scenario. If it's a weather event, that's one thing. If we know that there's a hurricane coming, we'll call our customers proactively and say, hey, they're forecasting a hurricane. Do you want to order early this week? We can move up your order day and get their orders out earlier. But if it's some kind of emergency that you did not know of, you have to be ready at any moment.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. I'd love for you to think back about the emergency plan that you've developed and think about a time maybe when a situation came about where it got put to the test, and maybe some of the lessons that you guys learned from that, and maybe how it improved your plan going forward.
I think the ice storm a couple of years ago is probably the best reaction that I've seen, because not only were we taking care of our customers, we were getting calls from people that their distributor couldn't get to them. And we were making new customers on an hourly basis.
Wow.
We just felt bad for nursing homes that couldn't get food. And we had somebody who is now a customer, but at the time was not.
Yeah.
They had 23 or so nursing homes, and they needed food. It had been days before they had gotten any, and they were told they weren't going to get any for another few days. And they said, we will come to you if you will just load us up. And they placed an order, and on a handshake, they drove up to Will Call and filled up a couple of trailers. I mean, that is sort of the culture here is we're going to do whatever we can to help.
And the essence of that is leadership matters.
Yeah.
To go through the red tape of not worrying about a credit application or doing what you need to do, leadership matters. And ultimately, it matters at your home, it matters in your family, and it matters at work.
Yeah. And, it's that pulling together to make sure that those residents get taken care of. And it's that mindset that I think is so critical. And that's why having partners like Benny Keith who look at it that way is so important. So as we kind of wrap things up here, I'd love for each of you from your different perspectives to maybe think and answer this question. How can a food service operator like Benny Keith really better partner and help to make sure that the emergency response plan that they have is ready to go, and will be successful when that emergency arises?
Sure. I think the whole part of it is having an agenda to communicate with and to make sure that annually or semi-annually you review it. Again, we can do so much. We certainly could provide the intellectual information that you need to figure out the water and all that. But at the end of the day, you have to have it. We need to know who to call. We need to be up to date of who is that dietary manager and so on and so forth. And our sales representatives certainly go through great pains to keep that updated. But the big thing is to develop the relationships so that when the pressure's on, we're not looking to say, who do we call at ABC Nursing Home? And
Yeah. Joyce?
I think just partnering with a distributor who that you have that relationship with is great. It's very hard if you have a 1-800 number to call to develop a relationship. And putting people first and having that relationship always helps. And I think as an operator, just going through your plan and thinking through your operation and putting it to the test. What is the usual range of people? Do we have enough on hand if we couldn't get a delivery for 7 days? Just there's so many things. Okay, do we have orders in the physician's orders that you can liberalize diets in the case of an emergency? Just thinking through proactively all of the things that could possibly happen, which I know on a day-to-day basis is so hard when you have so many other things going on, but taking the time to think through every possible scenario ahead of time so you're not surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you both for taking some time out of your busy days to have this conversation. Joyce, if listeners want to reach out and learn more about how Benny Keith can support them in their emergency planning, would you share that contact information for them?
Sure. Well, our website is www.benekeith.com, or if they wanted to email me, it's jdlamilla@benekeith.com.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you both for being here. Thank you for letting us use your studio here at the Benny Keith offices. And thanks for joining me today on Tips from Trestle.
It's great to be here.
Thank you.
So there it is, everybody. Another one in the books. Thanks again for tuning in. Please follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media at Tips from Trestle. You can also learn more about the work I do by following me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. And be sure to check out Trestle Hospitality Concepts at www.trestlehospitalityconcepts.com. I'm your host, Aaron Fish, and this has been another episode of Tips from Trestle.